I'm going to do something new here.
All right.
This is what open mic is for, though.
That's right.
This is an all-acts open mic night, so this may qualify as my spoken word one. I talked a lot in that one, but I talked a lot in this one. Hey, doggy. How you doing? No one sits alone here in this town. No one sits alone here in this town. We're all birds with lots of different feathers, but that don't mean we don't flock together. No one sits alone here in this town. I just moved here last November, and I spent the last 30 years in a major metropolitan area, the LA basin. And it was a different kind of deal. You go out to do things you like, and even though you were in a crowded room, you were just kind of next to the crowd. You weren't really part of it. From the outside, it looked like you were, but you weren't. I noticed here in Missoula that no matter where you go, whether it's to have a beer or a cup of coffee or a taco or whatever, you'll end up having somebody sitting next to you, and they'll have something to say. Give you for example here, I was meeting a friend for lunch on a Monday a few months ago. I was a little early, she was a little late. I'm not making a sexist statement there, just stating the facts. So to kill time, I went into the bar next door, sat down and had a beer at the empty bar. There's nobody in there. And suddenly these four people came in, and three of them had a lot of energy. The three guys did, and the girl seemed more subdued, and she sat down next to me. And the guys were trying to run a scam. They were asking the bartender if anybody left an iPad last night, because it's probably ours. And when he said no, they said, well, did anybody leave a Kindle? Maybe that's ours. So the girl was trying to ignore him and distance herself. She saw I had my sketchbook up on the counter. She goes, what do you sketch? Suddenly we were introduced. I said, I like to draw cartoons, and I draw little pictures of things I see. She goes, I used to love to sketch. Back when I was tweaking, that's all I ever did. I said, back when you were sketching, you were sketching? She said, yeah. And I wouldn't draw cartoons. I would draw these geometric shapes, and they just compound and they grow on each other. And I would start tweaking and just sit there for hours and do that. Matter of fact, when I was in the ladies' lockup over there, I would still do it, because you get down and get a sheaf of paper and some colored pencil pretty cheap. And some of my other cellmates, ladies next door, they saw them, liked them, they wanted to take them and color them. They started getting proud of the coloring job they did. They started comparing them and say, look, I'm better than you. They got a common wall together, and they started hanging them up and comparing and showing each other the artwork they created, that they did something positive. And then one day one of the guards saw him, tore him down, said that that was distracting. They couldn't have those anymore. That part of the story I like to point out, that I'd like to find that guard and kick her ass. I said, do you still like sketching? She says, no. Since I stopped tweaking, I don't sketch anymore. I said, do you miss it? And then we started talking about me being new in town. I said, I'm going next door for lunch. She said, oh, Missoula's got a lot of good restaurants. And she wasn't the poor individual anymore. She was proud of her town, and she told me where to go. And I stood up finally and said, I'm going to go next door and meet my friend. She goes, you have a good lunch. I says, maybe I'll see you again sometimes. She said, you sure will. No one sits alone here in this town. No one sits alone here in this town. We're all birds with lots of different feathers, but that don't mean we don't flock together. No one sits alone here in this town. I was walking by the Flathead Lake Brewing Company, and I saw they had a tasting room upstairs. I said, I've never had their beer. I'm going to go on up. I didn't know how to get there. It was crowded, but there was a staircase right next door to the main door. I figured that was it. The long, steep staircase, just in blind and white fluorescent light. It reminded me of a staircase I was on once in Tijuana when I was in the wrong place. And I got to the second floor, and the whole second floor was boarded up. There was drywall there, except around where the staircase went around. There was an ATM machine and a second flight of stairs. I said, well, maybe in Montana they count 1, 2 flights as the second floor. Who knows? So I went on up, and I found a little room up there with a portable bar, and there were about 30 people in there, a couple of kids, there was a dog, a couple of sectional couches, and everybody seemed to be having a good time. I said, this is it. This is a tasting room. I went inside. People at the bar, though, were ordering, like, PBR and Moscow mules, and I said, this is not like a tasting room. I ordered one of their beers, and I said, I'll separate myself from this and go sit by the window and look at beautiful downtown Missoula. Had a good view of the Oxford Saloon and Cafe and the Wilm. All of a sudden, this guy come over with a baseball cap, a hockey jersey, little hipster glasses, pretty boisterous. He sticks his hand out and says, how you doing? I'm Chuck Dog. I said, my name's Jeff. Nice to meet you, Chuck. He said, no, it's Chuck Dog, one word. So I looked back and said, you mean not even a hyphen? He said, not even a hyphen. And then Chuck sat down. He had a tall boy PBR in his hand, and I had my craft beer, and he said to me, so how do you know Steve? I said, oh, this is all coming together now. I'm in a private party. I walked into somebody's wedding reception or something. I said, I'm so sorry. I thought this was the tasting room. Let me go. He goes, oh, this is my friend Steve. He killed himself a couple weeks ago. And I said, I'm really, really sorry. I'm taking my business. I'm getting out of your business. I'm so sorry. He said, no, I'm just saying you don't want to be here. It's my friend Steve, you know. Well, unless you want to hear about my friend Steve. So I said, I'd like to hear about your friend Steve, and I sat back down. Chuck Dog told a bunch of stories about Steve. They'd gone to high school together and were fast friends for a long time after that. And he was probably 30, so a good 10 years plus. Then one day, Steve started getting weird, started getting violent, even with Chuck Dog. Every time he saw him, he wanted to pick a fight. So that was 2 years ago, and Chuck said, I can't hang around you anymore. Excuse me, not Chuck, Chuck Dog. Not even a hyphen. So Steve hadn't seen him, and he said, these other people in the room here, I used to hang around them too. But I don't really know them anymore. I stopped seeing them 2 years ago when I realized Chuck Dog's here to say goodbye to his friend and didn't have anybody to talk to. So it's a good thing I made a mistake. He got about halfway through another story, and suddenly he lost his place, and he stood up and he walked toward the balcony. He went outside where about 4 other people were standing, and all the hands went out and they were all shaking, and suddenly he knew his old friends again. I finished my beer and snuck out the back way, and I was glad I was there for at least that part. Because no one sits alone here in this town. No one sits alone here in this town. We are all birds with lots of different feathers, but that don't mean we don't flock together. No one sits alone here in this town. Now, those couple of stories, I made it sound maybe kind of like they were the ones that benefited from talking to me, but that's not the case. I got a lot out of it. So I suggest to all of you, you're around Missoula too, you're hanging around town, you see somebody with your radar out, see if there's somebody who needs somebody to talk to, and spend about 5 minutes with them. You know, they'd probably do the same thing for you. And I guess you already know this. I don't have to tell you that no one sits alone here in this town. Not on my watch, anyway. No one sits alone here in this town. We may be birds with lots of different feathers, but that don't mean we don't flock together. No one sits alone here in this town.